Morning.
Morning, Jesse.
Morning, Sanjeev.
Sorry, I'm on the road, so I'll turn my camera off.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So Jesse, I'm kind of in transit, but I'll be listening if you need me.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So, but you got this, right? You got the agenda?
Yep. Yeah,
all
I
right,
got the
good.
agenda from Alex.
All right, good. Sanjeev is going to join in a minute also.
Okay, he's also in the car, so
Yeah.
He'll be in and out.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be in. I'll just be listening. I can if you need me, I'm here.
Okay, sounds good.
Jesse, Doty.
Good morning.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, Vic. Good to see you.
Quick question.
Sure.
Should I leave my dying spruces to see if they regain their needles? They're all brown or dropped off.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I have to look.
Okay. Let me
I
know.
I know where you are.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, Vic, looking for advice.
All right, it looks like we're just waiting on a few more people.
Jesse,
Martha.
have you admitted the public yet?
Have I what?
Admitted the public yet?
They're all as attendees, so I think we have a public comment period, or how does that?
Yeah, but are they here now and you're recording?
Yes, everything's
Okay.
being recorded. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, because there's something I wanted to mention later, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Martha, did you hear from John Rushke? If he's going to be here?
No, I'm not. He didn't send anything to me.
Okay. All right, we'll just wait another minute or two and then we'll get going.
I'll text him.
I
Okay,
guess we give, yeah, I think we should start just so you have the agenda. You can start with that agenda and can take a lead on that, please. Jim, Miriam, Vic, please take. If there's any question, I'm here.
In 2 miles.
All right, sounds good. So I'd like to open this meeting of the Milburn Township Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. I have first on the agenda drainage project updates. Richard and Sanjeev, if you'd like to discuss the groundbreaking on November 2nd.
Yes, Sanjeev, I'm also, everybody forgive me, I'm also in transit a little bit, but I'm able to speak. So on November 2nd at 8:30 in South Mountain, we're so excited that our team is gonna break ground in South Mountain on 2 drainage projects. The township is gonna invest approximately $700,000 on these 2 projects. And this has been long discussed over many, many years, as Sarah's pointed out in past meetings. And this has been, this has been the result of much work that this committee has done, along with our professional team. So, Sanjeev, do you want to chime in and say anything?
Half a mile.
Yeah,
Use the
sure.
right 2
It
lanes
has
to
been
take
talked
exit
about
15.
for a very long
I-287
time,
south,
and
New
now
York
it's
17
finally
south toward New Jersey.
happening. So don't let this go sideways. Don't let anyone talk to you about anything. This is the money that we had as a township. There is no separate tax.
Use
There
the
is
right 2
nothing.
lanes to take exit 15.
But we are going to break ground on November 2nd. We ask everyone to join us. There is a 3rd project which we'll still do, which will
Continue
probably
for
in
1.5
2023
miles.
in South Mountain area. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Sanjeev.
I just want to add that the contractor did have their photography team out there yesterday. They filmed both areas so that we have that documented. The pre-construction video is done, which is important. And he also is projecting that he will be able to take delivery on a lot of the structures that are involved in these projects toward the beginning of December. But there's work to be done before he actually needs those. So, we'll all be at the groundbreaking, including the contractor, so we can ask him a few more questions then if needed. So.
Thanks, Martha. Martha, can you give a brief update on wood drainage area for 2023?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. An
I-
update on.
I see Greenwood / Ridgewood drainage area 2023. Just to,
Yeah,
since
don't
John
know.
isn't on, I don't know if you have an update on that.
Yeah, I don't think he's actively working on putting plans together. We know what the conceptual plan is for that, but our problem with that was obtaining the easements, and we don't have full buy-in from every resident that would be affected by that project. So that has been our difficulty.
Okay.
I don't know where we are with pursuing those easements at this point. We had a hard time just getting them to show an interest in the project, to come out and see what it was that we were going to do. Now, there are people down there that certainly are interested in it. I think part of the problem too is that we have some new residents in that vicinity. Is that right, Sarah? So we have to, they have not experienced the flood, any kind of flooding yet. So I don't know, Sarah, can you add anything? Have you spoken with anyone down there?
I
think-
believe
Go ahead, Sanjeev.
I believe Mr. McDonald is working on that part. We have invited few folks there from that neighborhood. And after we start this project, hopefully the other neighbors sees the benefit and will come on board. We'll start the process with them very soon.
And I know Niraj isn't able to make the meeting today, but I believe I heard that he did some visits in that block to further, communicate the project that was happening and the opportunity for them to take place there. So hopefully that will also generate some further interest in progress.
There were also some letters that were supposed to go out. I don't know if Jesse is aware of that, but Alex was working on letters that were to go out to those residents. I don't know if there was any response, but that particular part of the neighborhood has been consistently difficult to get buy-in.
I'll touch base with Alex and see where he's at on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Martha, for the members of the public who are on the Zoom who may not be familiar with this project, can you just give a brief overview on what the scope is and what it's trying to achieve?
On all of the projects or this particular
Just
third one?
this particular one on Greenwood and Ridgewood.
Yeah, this is not unlike exactly what we're doing in the other two blocks. We're putting drainage in the rear yards. It's parallel with both streets. It actually is probably very close to the center line of the property line between the houses on Ridgewood Road and Greenwood. So that's a naturally low-lying area, and that the drainage we put in there will collect runoff from that whole basin and drain it out toward Greenwood Drive, where we already have a sizable structure out there. It's actually in an easement on the corner property. The last I knew, that corner property was owned by Donald Werner. We'd gotten an easement from him. He owns a lot of property throughout town, and he gave us an easement to expand and improve upon that drainage vault that was on his property. So we would drain that pipe right into that area that's already set up, and would continue then draining down toward Gilbert Place. So we don't have a lot of road, we don't have any road work on that project to do. It's all drainage in the rear yards. But it's disturbing the rear yards and maybe cutting some trees down. It would be, would be invasive construction, and that's why we need the easements and the buy-in from the people. It will improve their situation, so hopefully we can convince them.
Thanks.
Well, we were able to start the two projects that we are talking about now that had been talked about for years and years. And I'm sure the third project will materialize, or at least we'll keep trying. We won't give up.
And Martha, could I ask you also to explain what the two projects actually accomplish? In other words, I don't think people actually know mechanically what it does. So could you just touch on that?
The two projects that we are about to begin breaking ground on early next month will be to facilitate the drainage in those two low-lying areas between homes on Ridgewood and Locust, and the homes in that first block of Ridgewood and Locust. And then in the second block, the more southern block between Mountain View and Ridgewood. So there's two low-lying areas in there. They experienced a really bad effect from that during Hurricane Ida. What these projects will do is facilitate the evacuation of those floodwaters. It's not going to prevent the flooding altogether, but it will, when the rain stops and the river levels go down, that water will drain out of there very quickly. So the drainage is being put in those rear yards. It will be brought out in two locations, one on the upper Greenwood project and one on the lower one. They'll bring it straight out to Ridgewood Road, putting a new pipe into Ridgewood Road, which comes down toward Gilbert Place and connects into existing piping that goes out then to our storm sewer pump station that's already existing. So once those drainage pipes are in place, and the river level goes down after a major event like a hurricane, those floodwaters will just be evacuated out of those rear yards very quickly. So it will also help in the lower level storms, the 25-year storms, it will, because those areas collect water in those lesser storms as well. So it'll be very helpful in those situations too. So I should add, when those neighborhoods were built originally, there was drainage put in there, and those drain pipes were very small. They were 8-inch, what we call Orangeburg pipe. It's not used any longer. It just collapsed. It filled with leaves, roots, whatever. They're totally occluded, totally ineffective at this point. But we're replacing them with, reinforced concrete pipe that will do its job and will not collapse. So
Thanks, Martha.
And I would like to add on top of Martha, what Martha just said, talked about the drainage program. And I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but next project in that area is also in process, which is home elevation program. There are a few applications that neighbors have already put in, and that is in process with the New Jersey OEM. They cover, I think, 80 to 90% of the cost for home elevation. So the application that are being processed, we will know the results either the end of the year or early summer. And then the construction, if that application goes through, the construction starts, I think, next fall, towards fall or end of the year in 2023. So that will further help. This is taking the water out of the backyard after this stops, and the water is out instead of sitting on that water for another full, I think 24 hours it took last time. Hopefully in a few hours it goes away, or a couple of hours. But then home elevation would further help them where they're not going to have water on their living area. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Next on the agenda, I have communications. If either, or if Sarah and Vic want to discuss press releases and website information and how this group is communicating with the public.
I'll start. We refer people to our page on the website, and we hope they're using it. Certainly on the South Mountain Civic Association page, we try to inform and update if there's anything new. However, we've been working on a press release that we wanted to go out to the general public, really circulate in town so that people would understand what we are doing. I'm sorry that Niraj is not here today because he worked on it, as did Vic, as did I. And then we gave it to the committee as a whole, and we have received input. Miriam had some suggestions to add regarding the Glenwood area, I believe, right? Miriam, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think we've just spent some time updating on South Mountain, but I think there are many residents who don't know what we're looking at in Glenwood.
Sure, thank you. Glenwood, I believe, is in the solution-based process, pending approval of 2D modeling for the Van Winkle tributary. Once we have 2D modeling, we would get answers to some volume that we're dealing with. So in the meantime, we're working with Department of Public Works on some maintenance that had come up in the past and currently ongoing relating to the diversion works. So that will be ongoing in the meantime.
Miriam, could you also talk a little bit about what 2D modeling is? Because I know there are some places we talk about that 2D modeling is a picture, but it actually, if you want to just make sure people understand the process of how 2D modeling works. please?
Sure, sure. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer that, but dating back to my engineering days, it's a software program that you plug all your numbers in. The numbers you plug in is the rate of flow coming into an area. From there, you would know what size pipe you would need to distribute. In the diversion area, what we have is existing pipes that vary in size and elevations, which takes out hand calculations out of the equation. You would need a software program to get your hydraulic numbers. So that would indicate, sorry, let me refer back to my notes. That would give us information as to the adequacy of the current existing system. And we know without calculations that it seems to be operating in a 10-year storm currently. So what kind of solution we would need long-term would be as a result of the hydraulics analysis. It's not a picture, it's actually an active live program. As you plug in the numbers and your year storms, a 10-year, 25-year, et cetera, you would see how the water affects the area. Does anybody want to else touch on what?
I'll jump in as well.
Modelings.
Thank you, Miriam.
Yeah.
In addition, it gives the details around where flooding occurs, right? So where
Right.
the river flow exceeds the banks and which areas of town it impacts, which is very helpful to know. And then it also gives us a tool, so as we identify potential solutions, we can model those out and see what that impact would be. So we can judge exactly how much it will improve the flooding situation and exactly where. So with that tool, we're then able to not only see better, understand where the problems are, but also the impacts of the different types of solutions we might be able to apply.
One clarification, I know I didn't know this term until I joined this committee. Miriam, would you explain diversion works? Because that's a term Alex uses, and when I first heard it, I didn't know where it was. I think a lot of people don't know.
Sure. The diversion works we're referring to is on Chatham and Woodland of the Glenwood District. It is a system that was built in 1930s. That would be the 66-inch pipe. And then again in 1972, the 42-inch pipe. So diversion is the retention pond, the two pipes that collects water from basically south of Hobart in the Arboretum area and drains into this tributary on Chatham Road. Its first function is to drain, hopefully completely, only through the 66-inch pipe. And if the water exceeds beyond the abilities of the 62, then it spills into the 42-inch. The 66 and the 42-inch runs through Glenwood, down Baltusrol, Meadowbrook. It surfaces behind the homes on Elmwood and Meadowbrook, Glenwood Drive area, right on Melbourne Avenue experiences runoff. And eventually it discharges into Springfield behind downtown Short Hills, behind Enzo and that parking lot 14. It is the, it's kind of like a big bypass project of its own.
In the
2D
past,
modeling that that we're proposing, Jim, you were right that it does show areas that would tend to flood, in any given storm, taking into account all the geographic characteristics of that neighborhood, including even something as much as the top of curb elevation, because we talk about inches
Yes.
a lot and how an inch of flood water can make a difference. An inch in a curb height can make a difference as to which way the water's going to go. And that's the 2D modeling would show that. But also we have to analyze the downstream impact of any kind of solution that's proposed, because this ends up in the Van Winkle Brook, which affects our Washington area neighborhood. So we have to take all of this into account. We can't just solve for one small area and without determining what the downstream impact is. So the 2D modeling, just gathering the data that we're gonna need for that is, well, I see John Rushke has joined us, so he can talk more about this, but John, you could guess, we're talking about 2D modeling in the Glenwood section.
Yes, and I think what some of the benefits of looking at the modeling is, it's management and risk analysis, being that, we need to really look at which homes are actually being impacted and how could the system be upgraded in order to eliminate, specific impacts. It's one thing if a road floods, you have excessive gutter flow, yes, that's an inconvenience, but it's not impacting someone's home. So if you can start to look at the modeling and see how we may have to, even not just, in some cases, it may not be just, elevating a curb, it may be reprofiling an entire road in order to accommodate, more gutter flow or try to eliminate excessive flooding in order to eliminate a home from being flooded. So, it gives you a bigger picture, not only for those lower storm events, if we're looking at a 25-year or 100-year, or you're looking at something even larger, that's at least gives you an understanding of what the existing constraints are and how you may modify those existing constraints in order to improve the situation. So the one thing with the the diversion works is that it was also a structure that to accommodate the inflow into that larger diameter pipe. The fact that it's not a conventional head wall where you just have an open pipe. It actually has a drop structure with that debris structure above it, and it's designed so that you're surcharging that pipe. You're putting excessive head onto that pipe in order to increase its capacity. And that's something you can also just quantify and can we increase those walls even higher in order to surcharge that pipe more, and then where is that surcharge going to happen? Is it going to flood a street higher, or is there a means of taking that large diameter pipe and eliminating some catch basins so that the pipe discharge directly into the Winklebrook versus having more vulnerable points in that system where they surcharge. So there's a lot of things that we can, once the model is done, you start to dissect it to see how we could tweak the system in order to reduce risk.
I have a question, and just walking that neighborhood, I live on Meadowbrook, and a lot of the neighbors have asked, and maybe this is a question for the town. The gutters in front along the street, some have like kind of that little gully of Belgian block. Some are actually reinforced with concrete, like an actual curbing. Some are railroad ties. Who's responsible? Is the homeowner responsible for the curbing in front of their house, or because it's kind of a mishmash in our neighborhood?
It didn't start out being a mishmash. It started out as all one type of gutter, and over the years, what happened was, somebody would pave it. For instance, it got to be too much trouble to, pull the weeds out, and or it got filled in, and it got filled in with soil. In a lot of cases, people's front yard goes right to the pavement, right to the street. Well, I can guarantee there's a gutter under there, but they just allowed it to be filled in, and they just keep mowing the lawn. And so things have evolved, and people, for whatever reason, if they were getting flood water into their front yard, it was jumping the gutter and coming in and approaching their house foundation. They may have erected a railroad tie wall or some other kind of stone wall or whatever, and put it. So there are all different kinds of treatments. It didn't start out that way. In general, what we say, if people have like a specific issue with their gutter, their blocks out of place, we generally tell people, go, feel free to go ahead and get that repaired yourself. We in the engineering department, I'm not going to create a capital project to come out and, spend $200 fixing your gutter for you. If we are going to do a gutter type project on the street, which in next year we will be working on Campbell Road. So that's a situation we're looking at right now. How are we going to fix Are we gonna fix those gutters on Campbell, or are we just gonna get rid of them? We're looking at that question right now. If I create a capital project or have a capital project, I would address the gutters at that time.
Okay.
I don't know how long you've lived there, Joe, but I think it was back in, maybe in 2003, we redid Baltusrol. We repaved it and reconstructed that road. We
okay,
added
yeah.
drainage. Were you there then?
No, I moved in nine years ago. One of my
Okay.
problems on a Meadowbrook is I'm surrounded by renters, and actually one of the landlords is Donald Werner that owns
He's the
properties.
largest landowner in the entire
Yeah.
township.
So I've taken upon myself of cleaning out those gutters and maintaining them, because a lot of the renters, and they're just not vested and they just don't know
Right.
the history. So it's been more of like a block project of like, hey, this will help mitigate, if you can clear the front. And I mean, I cleared 6 inches of dirt and grass. And
Yep,
actually, the neighbor was like, I didn't know that there was even these stones under there. So,
right.
and that was just a question that came up this past 2 weeks. So thanks for that information.
Okay.
Martha, I remember when you repaved Baltusrol, but I was in the 4th grade.
Thanks, Jesse.
I lived
Thanks for
around, I
making me
lived
feel
like 2
old.
blocks from there, so just jogged my memory.
But Martha, I guess if you look at those gutters, it's not a substantial amount of cross-sectional area in those gutters, are there?
No.
It's, if you were to actually just continue the crown of the road and construct a curb, you may get very similar capacity, so.
Exactly.
You know, and-
That's,
and-
you know, that is what we're looking at on doing and to do on Campbell Road, because that road is kind of a mess, and
Is
it
that-
has a mishmash of, there's gutter existing, there's no gutter, it's crazy, so.
Is that, has the town ever done special assessments? They're not, people don't appreciate, they kind of frown upon them, but, doing it, because you can do a special assessment where you're upgrading all of the curbing and eliminate that, and the assessment is imposed on the individual property owners.
Right.
Have you done that before? Or?
We've talked about it in a couple issues. Actually, one of the issues a long time ago is the people on, I think on Joe's block on Meadowbrook, wanted the town to put a pipe in and cover over that stream that was behind them. And we went ahead and did a cost estimate and included removing a huge amount of trees back there. Trying to get DEP approval, which would have been an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I don't know what the cost ended up being, but it was maybe 20 years ago, we were looking at that, and it seems like the costs were going to be around, I don't know, $120,000 or $150,000 then. And we were going to do that as an assessment, but we couldn't get buy-in from everyone on the street. So, they didn't want to pay that $12,000 or whatever it was going to be per household, so we just didn't do it.
You could probably get buy-in now after they've all flooded.
Well, I don't know. I mean, John, you may know, how would the DEP look at that? Would they generally do not like you to pipe open channels.
It was, sometimes you look back and you really wish you would have done those type of improvements years ago versus the new flood hazard regulations, which would be difficult. So, I think that what may be more practical is doing a stream, bank restoration of widening the stream and trying to improve the conveyance capacity of that versus closing it in, because that would be a very difficult, permitting component.
Yep, it would be, but you widen the stream and you're really encroaching so much more into those rear yards, and there's not a lot of rear yard to start with.
Yeah, it's more of looking at some flood walls in that area versus raising the flood walls and such.
Right.
It's just you're not going to enclosing it is that would be definitely one of those projects where you'd have to go for a pre-application with the DEP and expect a battle.
John, do you have experience with other municipalities of doing special assessments for projects of this nature?
Yes, yeah, it's actually very common for utility work when you're doing like sanitary sewer expansions. It's very, very, very common, and it's North Jersey. I don't see it happening as much. South Jersey, it's actually more common in some of the southern towns. that they do special assessment for road improvements and doing curbing and things like that, sidewalk improvements. It is generally frowned upon, get the residents to buy into it. But I know in some of the, like I said, in some of the southern towns that I know that, Mont McDonald does working, the residents are more inclined to do a special assessment if it's like a streetscape or really, improving the quality of the street, and, people are more buy-in versus just putting a simple curb in. It certainly is a mechanism that's available to offer the residents if it's, because it is a capital project that just benefits, those specific, residents.
Yeah, something to consider.
It's something to consider.
Next on the agenda, have committee reports. Would someone like to report on the East Branch?
I could jump in there. I think the focus on the East Branch right now is the drainage projects, right, that are just about to break ground, as we mentioned. And then after that, the making sure things progress with the home elevations and getting that third block where we want to improve drainage, getting the residents there aware and supportive of the easements that will be needed to do that.
I can just report on the Ridgewood project. Unfortunately, I could say that the work has been bid, the contracts have been signed, and the contractor is in the process of procuring material. This has been an issue with a lot of construction projects these days. It was just securing the material in order to start the project. And so he is having difficulty getting some of his precast structures ordered and fabricated in a very timely manner. So I believe we have a groundbreaking scheduled for November 2nd, is it, Martha? And that's he's going to start doing work. He's going to start doing test pits to verify the elevations of some of the existing utilities, just to make sure that everything is going to fit in where we squeezed it in order to get larger pipes in there. But the actual construction probably will start later in the month, just because of his material supplies and getting them delivered. So would expect that once the contractor does feel that it's probably a month's worth of work. So once he gets started, he'll move very quickly, but it's just a matter of getting him started.
John, were they
Could
able
do
to
tree removals now.
Excuse me?
He could do tree removals.
Oh yeah,
now.
there's certainly,
They could do-
they have talked about some of the more minor things that the prep work, and they'll probably do that once they, the contractors typically don't want to mobilize multiple times, but if he's mobilizing for the test pits, I believe he is going to do some minor improvements also. Whatever he can do, I think he's going to try to get started.
John, when Martha and Tom and I met with the contractor for a pre-con meeting, they talked about the possibility that they would not be able to source the precast in enough time. Do you know if they are going to get the precast, or are they going to lay it manually?
No, they're definitely going to be the precast. Doing it, if you wanted to construct it either with block or actually poured walls, it's very, very labor intensive, and he would want a change order for us to change the means and methods, and because then we'll be dictating what he has to do, and it's just very much more time consuming to build them in place versus getting a precast concrete structure and just placing it in the excavation.
Gotcha. Someone like to report out on the West Branch?
I can take that as well. So for the West Branch, from the work that's been done so far, the biggest impact that we can find to reduce flooding and the impact of flooding in Milburn is the orange bypass. Just to summarize, that is using the space and the orange reservoir there at the corner of the South Mountain Reservation near the zoo, and installing the infrastructure needed to drain some of that water out of the reservoir before a storm really begins. And then that capacity can be used to store the runoff before it reaches Milburn and release it slowly out across the duration of the storm and also after the storm. The modeling indicates that that will reduce the river levels in downtown Milburn. John, I believe it was 4 feet in the best cases. And so that's a significant impact, in reducing flooding and avoiding flooding in certain storms altogether in downtown Milburn. So our focus is on that, first and foremost. And the committee is working on a date to go out there, do a site visit with the permission of the city of Orange, to observe what's there currently and how the solution would work. And John, I believe one of the next steps is to finalize the report so we can get the mayor's council of the Rahway River on board and get the support we need from Essex County and the city of Orange to move forward.
Yeah, we did not get any comments from any of the members of the mayor's council. So, and I did update the report to accommodate a 500-year storm event and also modeled Ida. So it does show, what the benefits associated with those storm events. And obviously they do diminish as you get with these larger storm events. With with Ida in the 500 year, I don't recall exactly, but that 4 feet drops down to more like 2 feet. So it just you just don't get the benefit. The larger the storm, the less benefit the attenuation is because of the volume is so massive. But at this time, the report, I did finalize the report. I sent it to Alex. I believe he's just going to discuss it with the township's committee members, and then I haven't discussed with Alex on the timing. I believe he does want to push to not only for the mayor's council, because the mayor's council, they certainly had the benefits there, and there's the one path of seeing if the other members want to contribute and move forward with the implementation of the bypass. But also probably a more critical path is talking to Orange and talking to Essex and making sure that all of their concerns are addressed. We also drafted a report to look at the potential impacts from the operation of the bypass on the wells that are maintained by Orange County. There's portable wells downstream, and so we looked at any impacts to water quality or impacts on the yield of those wells. And so that report has been drafted and has been forwarded to Alex and Martha to review. So that's more of a work in progress. So I don't want to go into too much details on that report at this time, but that's another component that meeting with Orange and meeting with Essex County is critical.
Sanjeev, Richard, any updates from your side around getting that meeting established with Essex County?
So they have asked some follow-up questions from Alex, and Alex has responded back to the city of Orange. So it's a good sign. BA is talking to the BA, and once that gets done, we'll have a schedule to meet with the mayor of Orange, just to get him on board. And then once that is established, then we're looking to go to Essex County, because one is Rahway Mayor River, overall number of townships talking together. They don't have any feedback yet on the report, or they are not asking questions. But we believe the biggest one will be the city of Orange, because they own, or the part that we want to do things is their area. So they should be on board. And once they're on board, we don't feel the Essex County should have any problem, because we are also talking about taking the tab based on who is going to benefit how much. So it's not distributed. If Milburn is getting the most benefit out of the overall project, then Milburn will take that much percentage of the cost. So the work is on.
Yeah, I mean, what Sanjeev said is I agree with totally. But we're hoping. I think the city of Orange is really the linchpin in getting anything done. So I'm hopeful that we will get their buy-in I mean, it's critical down the road, and so we'll see. But I just want everybody to know that Sanjeev and myself and Mr. McDonald, we've been on it, and we've been trying to push this forward.
All right, would someone like to report on the Glenwood area, Glenwood neighborhood?
Miriam, I think you're on mute if you're talking.
Yes, thank you. Glenwood pretty much experiences three major areas where runoff is experienced affecting homes. And one of them obviously is the retention pond overflowing and Woodland becomes a raging river. And then the second area where there's a significant runoff is the corner of Baltusrol and Meadowbrook. And we do have a few homes that have first level flooding. So just yesterday, in this area, Baltusrol and Meadowbrook, I think Tom can update us better. We were experiencing a accumulation of silt that was blocking and causing the significant runoff. To my understanding, DEP was out there yesterday trying to figure out what the problem was in that area, how severely it was blocked and clogged. Tom, do you have an update for us?
Yeah, we got an excellent response because I was just made aware of it literally Monday. So we went out there. It's basically where a pipe outflow is, and to make it simple, it's just like Taylor Park. It's if you don't maintain the pond, you get siltation. So this is something that has gone on forever there, and we take one of our big trucks that has a big vacuum on it, and we literally go over a 6-foot or 8-foot stockade fence, and we basically just vacuum out that section. And upon further inspection yesterday, there was people were the issue. There was a blue tarp in there, spread out, and almost not across the stream, but in the stream, and that collected, branches and leaves and whatever, and made a natural dam, if you will. So we took that apart and cleaned that one section. So we did that yesterday.
The blue tarp was in the underground in the piping or open channel?
In the open channel, whether
That's new.
down the pipe or whether it came out of somebody's backyard. So
yes, when the retention pond was the alarm box was desilted, they had intentions of going back to this area, and I think back to school kind of interfered with the excessive work the DP had. So thank you for getting out there, and that should create an efficient flow for that channel.
correct.
Thank you.
And Tom, the next.
Just if I just add, for additional context for the attendees outside of the committee meeting, in the Glenwood area there, as Miriam said, we're focused right now on the maintenance type issues that can help to improve flow. And, just to connect some of the dots, the modeling that was discussed earlier, that helps us, once that's in place, to understand what bigger solutions we can apply. We are looking at more substantial infrastructure type projects there that would improve the flow and the capacity of storms that can be handled before there is a flooding event. And then, as Martha suggested earlier, once we've got those solutions that would look like it would provide a better path for water through the Glenwood area, we also then need to solve what happens with it after it leaves Glenwood, because we can't simply create an effective, efficient flow through one neighborhood just to then flood another neighborhood. So that's kind of the sequence of events that we need to go through to find a bigger solution for the Glenwood area.
Be phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 being Melbourne and phase 2 being Springfield.
Interesting. Thank thank you everyone for for those updates. Tom, any updates on maintenance items from DPW?
Well, again, the storm drains and items like that, that we normally do, we're continuing to do. Some of these areas, which I've spoken to Jim prior, there are some wish list items. And, to be blunt, a lot of the issue is some of these areas are private property that we may not have easements on. So it comes into areas whether we get permission from individual property owners, whether we can do that or not. And that's exactly what yesterday was. Through the years, people have known us, and we actually knock on their door and ask them, would you mind if? So some of those areas are private property. So I haven't seen this wish list yet, but when I do, we'll figure it out, and under direction from Alex, we'll do whatever we're told to do. So
Okay, great. Last item I have on the agenda is Q&A. So I'm just going to go with the hands that are raised right now. Jeffrey Moya.
Hi, good morning. Just had a question regarding the flood mitigation for the Ridgewood section. Is it possible to get the plans circulated to the residents? We're all new residents, so we're not really aware of what the proposal actually is, and just the cost in terms of what cost it would be for residents and any type of reimbursements to residents for any construction debris or what have you in the backyard.
Jeffrey, we can't hear you very well. Can you try muting and unmuting again?
Hi, can you hear me better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now, just want to ask for a circulation of the proposals for the flood mitigation to all the residents. A lot of us are new to Ridgewood and in the area, so we haven't been given those proposals yet. So even to just being able to circulate that to the residents would be helpful. Any information as to the costs that are associated for the residents to take on the project, and then any types of reimbursements that the town is looking to provide to residents for any of the construction and fence removal, tree removal, things like that would be helpful for us.
Okay, I can try to answer your questions. One, I think I can speak to Martha, see if the plans can be posted on the website, just so that residents can see what the proposed improvements are. It is upgrading some of the drainage system in the roadway and then extending new piping into the some backyards of some specific properties. Were you one of the homeowners where a property easement was occurred and pipe is being installed on your property?
So I'm located at 850 Ridgewood. I'm not sure if ours is applicable yet, but I haven't been contacted in terms of easements.
So
for the prior owner might have.
Yes, so the pipes are not extending into your property. They are basically staying in the municipal right of way. So by all means, the municipal right of way will be restored to existing conditions, and the pipes that are extending onto specific homes that are in specific low-lying areas. Those property owners have easements with the township. The township has agreed to restore the property back to pre-existing conditions. So all those certain protections to those homeowners are in place, and they. With regards to cost sharing, the town is picking up 100% of the construction cost. There is no special assessment. There is no costs that are going to be passed on to any individual homeowners. So there is no cost sharing here.
Jeffrey, I just looked at your address. Are you right across from Myrtle Avenue?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so Jeffrey lives on the block that we don't have any of the permissions or easement for. So Jeffrey, your
Okay.
block is the one we talked about that is the third one that we'd like to do this drainage project in, but we don't yet have the permission to do it.
Yes, and I guess how can the residents provide, those approvals to, move forward with that project?
So
Did you get a letter from the town, Jeffrey? Because letters were supposed to go out to your block and to your neighbors behind you in Greenwood. You have been the most difficult to reach. We've knocked on doors. We've really tried to reach out to people and we've had little response. So we do want to talk to you. But did you receive a letter?
We received a letter to join this Zoom meeting. A lot of the residents in the area, specifically on Ridgewood, have joined the community as of April and May. So a lot of us may have not received any of the Q1 notices. So any information that you can provide here on after would be helpful for us.
Jesse, you might want to let Alex know that looks as if we got through, and we might want to have a meeting with those residents, because I think some of them are really new to this and don't know what is being planned. So I think this is a good start. I'm glad
Jeffrey,
you're
would you be
here,
able-
Jeffrey.
Would you be able to help us connect with your neighbors and have a group discussion?
Yes, definitely. I know some of our neighbors are dialed in right now onto this meeting, so we're happy to, collect a group and reach out to, any of you to start the conversation again.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey, this is Committeeman Wasserman. Yeah, if you could help us, set up maybe a meeting at some point with your neighbors, it really would facilitate our efforts. We've been working on this and talking about this for over a year. And there's a lot of township funds in the balance for you guys if we can make this work. The projects that we're undertaking right now that we're about to break ground with, I think we're spending about $700,000 on 2 projects, and the township would love to work in your area next. So there's a lot in the balance if you could help us.
Perfect. Yes, happy to do so. Happy to.
Wonderful,
happy to
wonderful.
coordinate.
Jeffrey,
Well, first thing first, maybe come November 2nd, be there. So everyone will be there. We can talk further as well. Before we
join
have
us.
a dedicated meeting.
Jeffrey, after
I will-
this meeting, you can send an email to the business administrator at administrator@milburntwp.org. Just introduce yourself, mention and provide your address, and we'll look to get a meeting set up with you and your neighbors. And I'll see if we can. Do you have a sense of which properties may be changed over as well, so that if we need to drop off letters again, we know which addresses we're missing it?
Sure, not a problem. We'll send out that email after the call.
All right, thank you. Okay, next person I see is Daniel.
Hi, I'm actually Jeff's neighbor, so he's pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm new to the neighborhood as well. So I was just interested in trying to accelerate the drainage project for our block. So Jeff and I have talked extensively about this, so we'll be working together. Thank you everyone on the committee for this meeting and all the work you do.
Daniel, we're so happy you guys have logged in. If you were logged in 9 months ago, hopefully we would have started this project together, but it is not delayed. It's all good. We're so happy, both for you and Jeffrey to get on this call. Thank you again.
No, thank you guys.
Okay, next I see is Andrew.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew Carter on Greenwood Drive. I actually live right behind Jeffrey. And so he did also cover one of my questions. I guess I would just emphasize that as a resident who's been on Greenwood since just this past February, I haven't received a letter, so that would be good too. And I know that there's a few other people who've moved in recently. And then my other question, I guess, would be to the extent that there's a project that might proceed on like Ridgewood or some of the other ones that are going ahead, would the lack of a project going on Greenwood Drive while those are going on, could that cause excess sort of overflow or diversion to Greenwood Drive, or is this a completely separate sort of issue?
No, they're completely separate. And the one thing that we have to make perfectly clear is that, you know, the improvements that are doing on Ridgewood and also that would be done in your neighborhood, it's not going to prevent flooding. It's not going to prevent when the river banks overflow and breach the banks of the river. These improvements are not designed to handle that low flow events. These improvements are specifically designed to alleviate some of the burden that's in the rear yards of the properties where it's a low-lying area. The water can't get out into the collection system. And so these systems will improve the efficiency of removing water from these areas. However, when the entire neighborhood floods, these pipes become ineffective. So the pipes will help during some significant storm events, but not those floods that create major floods. And it would also, when a major flood occurs, these pipes will also help drain those areas quicker, because during the last storm, some of these rear yards, took a long time for the water to recede, and these improvements will greatly improve that benefit. So I just don't want to mislead what these improvements represent.
So let me add to that, John. There is, like Neeraj, who is not on the meeting today, but part of the committee, his backyard fills in, even if there is small little rain happens, and the pond that gets created there takes a while to seep the water in. For all the small rainfall, for a little bit more than that, when you have your backyard full of water, that will get seeped in quicker. What John is talking about is when you have 100-year storm, when you have 50-year storm, there may be water that may still be the same way, but it will get out from the backyard sooner than what it is being done today after the project. Is that about right, John?
Yeah, I just don't want to, be perfectly clear that the flood elevations that occur now will continue to occur with a major storm event. This improvement is improving the local system. It's not a regional solution that's going to avoid the area from flooding. It is a substantial improvement where you'll see improvements during smaller storm events. But once you have that larger storm events, that's not what this current improvement is for. We are looking at other means of doing more regional solutions, but this is a local improvement to improve the drainage system during smaller storm events. And also there is a benefit of having these in place when a larger storm hits, that these areas will drain much quicker.
Right, and as we said before, there's home elevation program that we have been looking into. There are, I think, 3 applications that came in, and we still went ahead with those 3 applications, and those are being processed. But there will be a next round again. So if you want to reach out to business administrator at melbournetwp.org and ask him, I don't think there will be any more application that we'll be able to add now, but there is no harm in checking with him and getting your application added to the process if possible. Because the next time it will happen is next year, towards the end of the year, for new applications.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's one of the flood mitigation measures, which is effective for an individual home to have it elevated. And it certainly is an option that is available to be pursued by the individual property owners. And it is important to get that feedback sooner than later, so that, we just have that list, an ongoing list, so that when we do proceed with the next round, we have a better handle on how many homes are going to be included.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last hand I see is Deputy Mayor Eglo.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. So I'm everyone's neighbor. I'm Sarah's next door neighbor. I just want to ask, so the dredging Taylor Park has been approved, and when can we expect that to happen? Because the Taylor Pond, as I mentioned last night, is getting filled up with all sediment. And I'll ask my questions. Two, the $1.9 million that Governor Cody mentioned last night, will that be earmarked for our flooding mitigation or just general infrastructure in town? And the third thing, so we pay a tremendous amount of our taxes to Joe D, and about every day we get a tweet from Joe D about projects he's doing all throughout Essex County, Branch Brook Park, Irvington, Orange, wonderful buildings are going up. Can we have a largest portion, if we're going to be responsible for the Orange bypass, and it's a great plan if it gets accepted, I think we should strongly advocate that Joe D chips in for that portion for Milburn, because as you know, we are paying $40 million a year, and I don't believe we're getting anything back for our town, and that's been a point of contention for many, many years. Those are my three questions.
Right? So Deputy Mayor, on the first one, maybe Martha, you have any answer, but as far as the 1.3 million or any other money-wise question, I don't see any flood mitigation money yet from the state. Maybe you can talk to Governor Cody directly, raise your question with him. But as far as I know, the infrastructure money was for pandemic that we had last year, and that was for revenue loss. So if we get the money for flood mitigation, we sure will appoint to this. But the $700,000 that Mr. Wasserman has talked about, and you may know very well, this is coming from the township budget.
No, Sanjeev, I was referring to the money that Dick Cody brought up last night, a new infrastructure, infusion of 1.9 million.
So we know exactly what you know. If you're confused, even I'm confused. So that is what I said. If you have any more confusion on the money, I either ask Mr. McDonald or Governor Cody directly.
Okay, Sanjeev, that's not really a clear answer, but we'll move on. I think the town wants to know the 1.9 million that Dick Cody referred to. Is that going to be earmarked? So I guess Jesse and Alex can find that out. Another thing is, has Taylor Park been approved for dredging? When can that expect to start? And I think we have to really seriously go to Joe D and find a way that Milburn can get some of that $40 million a year, since that would be Essex County property. And how do we work on that? You're the flood mitigation. You guys talk to Essex County.
I don't know if that's Essex County property or if the property actually belongs to the city of Orange.
Well, that's all Essex County. I think you mentioned the beginning of the meeting that if Milburn gets the biggest bang from this Orange bypass, we're going to have to pay a larger portion. So I'm thinking that we should get some of that money infused back to us from the millions that we pay every year into our taxes.
You're absolutely right, Ms. Eglo. If we get any money, we are going to put it towards the flood mitigation. If we don't get the money, we will still, at least my vote will still be, if we have to do the bond, whatever we need to do to secure our town, my vote is going to go for that. I cannot talk for you or for anyone else, but I'm really passionate about this flood mitigation in our town.
Yeah, and let me chime in, Deputy Mayor, that this team has been working, every week, getting stuff done. That's why we're about to break ground in your neighborhood. So so we're very excited about that. But in terms of money that Governor Cody was speaking of, I think you also know that we haven't seen, as a township committee member, I haven't seen that money. I don't know how it's earmarked, but what Mr. Vinayak said, which I agree with, is if that money does come in and the TC earmarks it, properly, my vote would also be to apply it to, to this committee and to our flood mitigation work, because there's very few other things that are more important, to our township.
That's great. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear, Richard.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
And
Can I
editor,
jump in
can
on
I,
Taylor
can,
Park, please?
I just want to say
Um,
I just want to say one other thing in terms of Joe D in Essex County. As deputy mayor, you're also welcome to reach out to, we've been trying, we've also been trying to reach out to the county executive and to make our case. But as an elected official, you also have access to make those calls too, and you can join us and make those calls.
Okay, let's set up a conference call. I think that's a great idea.
Jesse, maybe you can help us out on Taylor Park, because this has been in process for quite a while. I think Alex refers to the project as one of his FEMA fixes, and 90% of the project will be paid for. However, they needed to do testing of the silt. And I know engineers have been out there. People have told me they've seen them, they've spoken to them, whatever. Do you know where we are in terms of that? Because we are hoping to have dredging.
Yeah, so the project was obligated by FEMA. And originally it was obligated up to a certain dollar amount. And then because a project of this nature needs DEP permits for approval, that number went up. And so we had to go back and forth with FEMA for a little bit. And so they're obligating now up to a certain percent for the whole project, but we're currently in the process with an engineering firm that's doing the design work needed to actually remove the silt and conduct the dredging and file the permits necessary with the DEP. So that's currently what's being done. That's with Van Cleef Engineering. Martha, if I missed anything.
It is Van Cleef Engineering. They promised us that by December, they will have a set of plans and documents ready. We had to prepare plans and specifications because it's a project that'll have to go for bids. And, basically an outline of the pond, a quantitative amount of silt to be removed. We did have to do the testing, just as a matter of course. Sediment that ends up in ponds generally is considered to be a classified material that's going to have to be dredged out and taken somewhere. We can't just dump that any place. So there's a cost associated with that. So we expect within a month, we're going to be able to take a look at some of their preliminary plans, and as soon as they're ready, we'll go out for bid, and it'll be a project that will be done probably, I'm guessing, in the spring. So.
Yeah, Martha, I guess they haven't applied for the DEP permits yet, right? So
I think, John, that they are in the process of preparing those documents. I haven't touched base with them recently, but we could certainly do that, and I could have a report ready for the next time we meet. I haven't spoken to them in a while, so I'll find out more.
Yeah, typically that permit, it takes a couple months, so it may just realistically more be like a summer project than a spring.
Depending on where they are in the process, you're right. And we found, and I know you found that, whatever time the DEP would take 5 years ago or 10 years ago to process a permit, you can double that at least, because they're just taking forever.
They are.
Martha, is there any approvals to are there any approvals to bring to the TC this year? At this point for that. I mean, we have
to go out for bid.
Yeah.
Not yet. No, we haven't gotten to that point yet. I like to be a little closer to our bid date before we ask you guys for permission, just so we're better able to explain the project to everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Oh, and I wanted to ask John a question. We spoke previously about posting plans on the website. Do you have a conceptual plan for this third low-lying area between Greenwood and Ridgewood that you could email to me so we could get that on the website? It would just have to be like a plan view, a concept plan. John, you're muted.
John, you're on mute.
Yes, we have that. I believe I may have already sent it to Alex, but I'll send it again.
Yeah, if we could do that. If you had the, just the plan view of of the first two areas, and we could just describe, you know.
Well, the first two areas were, you know, they went to a final design state, but for the third area, it's still in concept. But that concept does give, you know, some detail regarding the overall scope of the project. So it's
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That's all the hands I see raised for Q&A. And that's the last item I have on the agenda. So thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you, Jesse. Good job.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you ran the meeting really well.
Alex will be here the next time. So.
Yeah, Jesse, just in closing remarks, again, very thrilled to see more people coming on board. I'm actually going to be very thrilled, and we are very optimistic on having more people applying for home elevation, because I think that will really help individuals about their homes. And we are in the process of taking applications. We are always going to be. If you file in your application now, if you don't get approved this year, maybe it's too late, but it will get in the line for the next year. But please, whatever you can, home elevation program or the drainage program, if you're interested, please reach out. There's a sense of urgency in the township already. You might want to take the benefit of it, and it's a win-win situation.
And let me just say also in closing, I really want to make sure that our team and anybody in the township can join us on November 2nd. And what, Sarah, what's Niraj's address? Where are we meeting? Do you remember?
819.
25 or 823 Ridgewood.
819 Ridgewood Drive.
819 Ridgewood Drive.
819, yeah.
819 on Wednesday, November 2nd. Please bring warm clothing, and there'll be some fanfare as we break ground. So please join us.
If you go next door, just look at us.
You'll
look
see
for
us.
us.
You'll see us. You'll see us.
Easy to find. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jay.
everyone.
Thank you to the team.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Jesse.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Cameron.